afternoon had been put on administrative duties pending the investigation. They were wrong as two left shoes. I mean, not only in how they treated Tyreek Hill, but how they tried to bully Jonnu Smith and Calais Campbell into leaving the scene and not recording the incident. There's got to be some level of accountability, and for my money, the accountability is not being put on desk duty. The accountability is making sure that those people are not involved in law enforcement moving forward because they can't be trusted. It was clear and obvious to me that those officers were intent on putting Tyreek Hill in his place. They wanted to put that boy in his place. They saw him driving a $250,000 car on the way to the stadium, and they decided, you know what? We're going to pull him over, and if he gives us any reason, we're going to rip him out of the car and slam him to the pavement. And the reason I know that was the mentality is because of what they said when they ripped Tyreek Hill out of his car, and they told him, you got it effing confused. I'm sorry, the police officers are there to protect and serve. Using that type of language toward Tyreek Hill, who's clearly terrified in that situation, is not protecting or serving anybody but yourself. It's only serving your own prejudices. It's not doing your job. It's not protecting the public interest. It's not keeping everyone, including Tyreek Hill, safe. You wanted to make a point to Tyreek Hill, who was flipped when he told you to give him his ticket so he can go about his way. And here's the thing, as a former player, I understand when you're driving into the stadium, you have a one-track mind. You're thinking about what you got to do out there on that football field to help your team win. When you drive in, you don't expect to be pulled over. It's a curveball. And so I can understand why Tyreek Hill wanted to give him his license, wanted to get the ticket, and get the hell out of there and get to the stadium. I understand that. What I don't understand is how a police officer can rip open his door, rip him out of the car, not take him out of the car, rip him out of his car, slam him on the pavement face first, and cuff him and tell him he got it effing confused. And then, once you got him cuffed, make him sit down on the pavement because you don't want him to stand. The police officers wanted Tyreek Hill beneath them, both literally and figuratively. And that's the kind of crap that black Americans can't stand. And that's why we're so frustrated, because when the country talked about wanting to reckon with race after George Floyd, we still have stuff like this popping up, as if we haven't seen it enough, as if we didn't have to deal with it with Chandra Bland, as if we didn't have to deal with it with Taryn Crusher, as if we didn't have to deal with it with Walter Scott, as if we didn't have to deal with it with Philando Castile. This keeps coming up. Black Americans being stopped by law enforcement and not knowing if they're going to make it home. And so when Tyreek Hill says, what if I wasn't Tyreek Hill? He's absolutely right. The most frustrating and maddening part about this is that the police union of South Florida wants to come out and says, per the officers' policies, they wanted to make sure that Tyreek Hill was no threat. Well, you had his license. You knew who he was. You knew he was going to the stadium, which was blocks away. You think Tyreek Hill is going to run away from you in handcuffs? What the hell are we talking about? It made no sense how they handled that situation. That's why the statement by the police union was a joke, and it undermines the credibility of police officers in the eyes of the black community. Until something about that changes, until they stop hiding behind the blue wall and try to protect these bad actors, we're still going to have this mistrust between black people and the police department. And that's why the NFL has to step in and make it clear on its position that we will not tolerate police officers treating black people and treating their players in this way.
We're on Sportsmanlike on ESPN Radio.
Hey, it's Greeny, and the 49ers take care of business in Week 1, handing the Jets a disappointing loss on the West Coast. What does this mean for both team seasons? We'll be talking about it with you. It's Greeny, starting 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
It's Wrangler season out there. Open roads, endless horizons. Shop Wrangler.com for new denim styles.
Veterans, did you know VA mortgage rates have plummeted and you can now access up to 100% of your home's equity and turn that into cash right now? Hey, it's Roger Moore, President and CEO of Loan Pronto, announcing our VA Equity Advantage program. This VA offer can get you $50,000, $70,000, $100,000 cash out with no junk fees and no hassle, with APRs in the 5s. You can pay off all those credit cards, personal loans, car loans, and get one easy-to-manage payment. Veterans we help save on average $850 per month. And listen, if you're a veteran veteran with a current mortgage rate over 6.25%, we can do a streamlined refinance with no income verification and no appraisal, saving you hundreds a month. At Loan Pronto, we respect what you've done for our country, and we show it. Call now and ask about our special VA Equity Advantage program. 919-381-1760. 919-381-1760. LoanPronto.com. 919-381-1760.
Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. NMLS consumeraccess.org.
The future depends on teachers. Every day, teachers are shaping our tomorrows, starting their students on journeys that will change the course of history. Right now, in a classroom somewhere in the United States, there's a teacher inspiring a future scientist who will make preventing pandemics their life's work, sharpening the mind of an aspiring environmentalist who will help combat climate change, and generating possibilities for a student who will be the first in their family to graduate college. It all starts with teachers who meet challenges with creativity, who reinvent education for the future, who work towards a school system that lifts up every child, regardless of race, income, or zip code, and to enable the full potential of our students, our communities, and our country. Explore a career that leaves a legacy you can be proud of. Shape the future. Teach. Learn more and receive free support at teach.org.
We put our lives on the line for our country. We braved the unknown. We did what we were told, and we lit up. Our cigarette packs were as valuable as the packs on our back, maybe more. At one point, cigarettes were part of our daily ration. Smoke 'em if you got 'em. And boy, we were smoking 'em. Bumming a smoke was the norm. It was an escape from the reality of dirt, sweat, and forgetting how many days you were so far from home. Never had to worry so long as you had a light, and the smoking lamp was lit. If that was you then, get your lungs screened now. Surviving lung cancer starts with a scan. Learn more at screenyourlungs.org. And thank you for your service. This PSA was made possible by industry funding and guidance from lung cancer patient groups.
From number 5 to number 1.
The best of the best of the best, sir.
These are the Chris Canty Power Rankings.
Yes, Power Rankings time here at Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio. A reminder, if you stay to La Quinta by Wyndham, you'll discover there's a fully equipped fitness center at every location. Now you can wake up and power your day with a solid workout or de-stress in the afternoon with some cardio. Tonight, La Quinta. Tomorrow, you shine. Book direct at LQ.com. Well, we will find out which teams are shining in CC's top 5 in his Power Rankings for after week number 1, before week number 2. CC.
Absolutely. Let's get this thing going, y'all. Javante, without further ado.
Number 5.
Checking in at number 5, the Buffalo Bills. Listen, they had the right amount of balance in that game against the Arizona Cardinals. Even though they were down double digits early, they didn't get away from the run game. They had 30 dropbacks to 33 rush attempts. That's exactly what you need with Josh Allen only putting it in the air 23 times. We talked about this a lot during the offseason, but limiting the opportunities for turnover-worthy plays from Josh Allen in the passing game, I think is absolutely critical to the Buffalo Bills' success post-Stephon Diggs. I think less is more when it comes to Josh Allen. James Cook giving the heavy dose 20 carries. I think that's the right thing to do in terms of forming an identity that will allow them to have success in the regular season, but also in the postseason. We saw it at the end of last year when offensive coordinator Joe Brady, a lot of 12 personnel with an extra offensive lineman in there. They went big. They were able to establish the line of scrimmage. They owned the point of attack in the run game, and that set up opportunities in the play-action passing game downfield. I think that's exactly what they need to do. And then, of course, the receivers getting involved, Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, and Dawson Knox. I think they've got enough talent in that skill position core to make a deep playoff run. But the most important thing is what Josh Allen does and what he doesn't do. When you have 4 touchdowns, 2 throwing and two rushing, it's exactly the kind of productivity that you're looking for. If they keep this up in terms of the balance and play calling, not only will the Buffalo Bills be in the hunt for the number 1 seed in the AFC, but Josh Allen will be in the hunt for an MVP. Next.
Which is what Evan called. He called it.
That I did.
Evan did call it. Evan did call it. Evan did call it. Next.
Number 4.
The Houston Texans. I don't think anybody saw Joe Mixon, after getting traded from the Cincinnati Bengals, opening up, debuting with the Houston Texans with 30 carries for 160 yards. I mean, this guy was giving them 5.3 a clip. When you have that kind of balance with that caliber quarterback in C.J. Stroud, I mean, the sky is the limit. This could be a team that grows into a true challenger to the Kansas City Chiefs for AFC supremacy. That's how high I am on C.J. Stroud. That's how high I am on the Houston Texans. They did this right in terms of identifying their franchise quarterback and then surrounding him with the requisite talent that it takes in order for him to have success. Think about the key moves that they made on the offensive side of the ball. They traded for Joe Mixon. Did he show up against the Colts in week 1? Absolutely. They traded for Stephon Diggs. Did he show up in week 1 against the Colts? Absolutely. 6 catches on 6 targets, and he had 2 touchdowns. That's the kind of productivity that you want for the guys that you infuse in the skill position core to help your young quarterback. I think C.J. Stroud is a top 5 quarterback already, but when you give him a Joe Mixon and you give him a Stephon Diggs to go along with already having Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Dalton Schultz, then all of a sudden you're talking about the makings of a really explosive offense. And maybe the best thing that C.J. Stroud does in terms of quarterbacking is taking care of the football, doesn't really put it in harm's way a whole lot. I mean, that's how you explain the guy having a 115.9 passer rating straight out of the gates in week 1, where we saw a lot of quarterbacks struggle. So a lot of credit to the Houston Texans. I'm bullish on them. Their defense has to come around a little bit in terms of being able to affect opposing quarterbacks, but I think they have the personnel in order to do the job, especially with Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. But look out for the Houston Texans, because it ain't going to be long now. It ain't going to be long. Next.
Number 3.
The San Francisco 49ers. Guys, I said it last week when I released my week 1 power rankings. The only reason the 49ers weren't on the list is because Trent Williams had yet to sign his new deal. Now that he's got his new deal, the San Francisco 49ers are absolutely a top 5 team, and they showed it last night, rushing for $180 against the New York Jets. And here's the thing, the yardage is gaudy, but to me, the attempts are even sexier. When you have 38 rush attempts, you're going to be a hard outfit to beat. And that's exactly what the 49ers would do. Think about it. You got to really sustain drives in order to have that kind of volume in your run game. And so the fact that the San Francisco 49ers could own the line of scrimmage in the way that they did was truly, truly impressive. I mean, you've got a lot of guys up front that they're counting on to take big leaps. And you saw it a little bit last night. I mean, Troy Aikman couldn't stop gushing about the right guard, Pooney, who stepped in as a rookie third-round draft pick and performed really, really well. If they can have him continue to play at that level and Trent Williams continue to be the best offensive lineman on the planet, then San Francisco is going